ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. O Ramakrishna, the establisher of the eternal religion, the embodiment of all religions, and the best of all incarnations, we salute thee. In the last reading class, we stopped halfway of para 16, section 5, on page 313. Today we shall continue from the same page. The topic is Essence of Madhura Bhava, the sweet mood. The Madhura Bhava is said to be the greatest contribution of the Vaishnava teachers like Chaitanya to the spiritual world. Had they not shown the way, so many people would not have resorted to it for God realization and been endowed with peace and pure bliss. They were the first to understand that the Vrindavan Leela of Sri Krishna was not acted in vain and to make efforts to explain it to others. But for the advent of Chaitanya, Vrindavan would have been regarded as an ordinary forest. So in the life of Sri Chaitanya, we find he found out the exact places where Sri Krishna had played his different sports. Before him, nobody knew that in the forest, it was there in Vrindavan, where Sri Krishna did what spiritual sport. Only after Sri Chaitanya, Vrindavan became as it is now today. So he in a way discovered the lost Vrindavan. Just Columbus discovered America. America was there, but Columbus discovered it when people came to know it. Oh, here is a continent. Like that, before Chaitanya, it was only forest. It was Chaitanya who entered by spiritual power. He could detect that here Sri Krishna was here Sri Krishna was there, here he enacted this play of his spiritual life. So like that, all the sports, spiritual leela of Chaitanya were found out, discovered by Sri Chaitanya. Endeavoring in imitation of the West to record only outward events, the historians of the modern age will say, but there is no evidence that the play of Vrindavan actually took place, as you say. Therefore, don't you see that so much of your joy and sorrow and the moods, including the Madhura Bhava, are all without a basis? The Vaishnava teachers may say in reply, how can you either produce sure evidence that we get the proof that your history has undoubtedly opened the door to that very ancient age? We shall say that your doubt itself is unfounded. So many things we have taken for history in the spiritual world. There is no proof for that, as in the case of the physical history or the history of nations. So how do you ascribe truth to that? All those spiritual truths you accept as true in the case of every other religion. Moreover, even if you should ever produce such proof, no harm will touch our faith. It will not affect at all the eternal play in the eternal Vrindavan of the Divine Lord. That mystery of the divine play in the ideal spiritual realm will certainly remain uniformly true. If in the realm of consciousness you desire to witness the divine play of love between Radha and Krishna, which belongs to that same realm, become first of all free from the slightest tinge of lust in body, mind and speech, and learn to perform selfless service by following the footsteps of any one of the female friends of Srimati Radha. That is how one gets entry into the spiritual world. It is a different world. It is a different plane of existence. Just as in our waking state and in our dream state. So we experience in both the states. In waking experiences are there, dream experiences are there. But they belong to two different states. So the standards of waking state cannot be applied into the dream state. What we take 50 years in waking state, in dream perhaps in 5 minutes we see all the things. So a child is born and takes 16 years for him to grow up. In dream, he is born and in the next second, so he is running about as a 16-year-old boy. So the two planes are different. Experiences are there, experiences are true, but the standards of one cannot be applied to the state of mind in a different way, in a different state of existence. So similarly, the spiritual experiences of saints and seers, so and scriptures, they belong to a different spiritual realm, which is altogether a different state of mind. You get into a sort of a dream, some child put it in a very, very funny way, but a very, very clear way. It was asked, what do you think about the dream? It is said, the child said, it is like closing the eyes and seeing the TV. Closing the eyes and seeing TV. So it is something just like that. Inside the dream we see light. Everything is illumined. Not that in dream everything is dark. In fact, the figures there in the dream are much more brighter than in the physical world. So in the dream, where do you get that light from? In the Upanishad there is a mention. There, from the light of Atman, you see the figures there. All personalities there in the dream are seen in the light of the Atman itself. Atma sheds its own light on that and sees the dream. So it's a different world. So standards of one do not apply to the other. So our historicity and the different standards by which we establish it cannot be done in case of the spiritual truths. All the same, spiritual truths are truths because one after another they have experienced the same experience, going through the same method and methodology, and they have come to the same conclusion. Yes, Sri Krishna existed in Vrindavan, Sri Radha existed. Yes, in that Nidhuvana they played together. Saints after saints, they confirm it. If it was not a truth, how can they come to the same conclusion of different centuries? So it is a different stage, it is a different state of mind. Until we reach that one, we cannot simply say it has no historicity. It has got historicity by its own standards. You will then see that Sri Vrindavan, the playground of Sri Hari, is eternally there in your heart, and that the said play is being enacted with you every day. So everyone can see it. We say it is an eternal play. It is there. So if anyone can undergo the method suggested by the Vaishnava Acharyas, one can see Krishna and Radha and the divine play. In order to understand this play at Vrindavan, it is necessary to comprehend the history of devotional moods. He who has not learned how to be independent of external events and how to study with a pure heart the history of the devotional moods by a thorough acceptance of the ideal world as real will never be able to enjoy the beauty and sweetness of his play at Vrindavan. So first of all, we have to accept the reality of the spiritual world. Just like we accept after the psychology, the development of psychology, we accept dream state as a true state. It is the experience of dream is true. Many things there, they relate to the real existence, real world. So many things have happened in dream, and some forebodings have been given in the dream, and they have come in future at the right time as true in the real world. So dream world cannot be dismissed as untrue once and for all. There are certain dreams, they point out for things that will come in future. It has happened in history of India, history of other places in the world also. So dream is a state in which if you go, the things that are there, they reveal themselves to you. So the truths of dream are true by their own standard. Not there, they cannot be proved as true by the waking state standard. Neither waking state standard can be measured with the standards of the dream. In dream, you just go, you see a tiger, so you have to escape from the tiger. You just take a jump, you are right on a tree. So this is true, as long as dream is true. So all these things are true. You believe it, you escape. The tiger will not jump, it also will not jump and come and catch you on the tree. You are free. So in the dream world, if you just take a jump, as a man, you can be on the tree, but tiger cannot jump. So that is the truth of the dream world. Whereas in waking world, neither man can jump onto the tree, nor a tiger can jump onto the tree. So these are the standards of the waking state. So you cannot compare one with the other. So we have to grant the truth of dream, then we will understand the phenomena that is happening in the dream state. Similarly, spiritual state, these experiences of gods and goddesses playing with one another, they are all true by the same spiritual standards of that spiritual world. Acceptance of the world as real, we will never be able to enjoy the beauty and sweetness. While Sri Ramakrishna was describing that play of the divine with great enthusiasm to the English-educated young men who were with him, he found that they did not relish it, and he said, why don't you mark and grasp the attraction of Srimati's heart, Radha's heart, to Krishna in the divine play? When one has that kind of attraction to God, one realizes him. That part, that attraction that was there in the heart of Srimati, we can always accept, whether it is in the dream or in its waking state. That is a quality, that is the truth. Attraction will yield you its shown results. That is, your beloved will come to you. If you are very much attracted to your beloved, either you yourself go and get united with the beloved, or the beloved come to you, and you will have union with him or with her. So that attraction, that is true. So why don't you accept that? You need not accept Krishna or Radha. But the attraction between them, the tremendous attraction which has no parallel. So that why don't you accept? That's what Sri Ramakrishna asks these young people. When one has that kind of attraction to God, one realizes him. Just see how mad the gopis were for Krishna, renouncing their all, husband, children, family, and propriety of conduct, honor and dishonor, shame and aversion, fear of public opinion and of society, and so on and so forth. When one can be so, one realizes the divine law. If, continued he, one is not free from the least tinge of lust, one cannot understand the spiritual mood of Radha, the embodiment of Mahabhava. As soon as they saw Krishna, the embodiment of existence, knowledge, bliss, Satchidananda, the gopis felt a joy in their hearts, tens of millions of times greater than sex pleasure. They then lost their body consciousness. Could the idea of the sex enjoyment by the contemptible body cross their minds then? Divine light came out of Sri Krishna's body and touched their bodies, producing infinitely greater pleasure in every pore of their bodies than that of sexual enjoyment. So it is a different realm. The dimension of the joy there, it can never be compared to the quantitatively with the ordinary enjoyment of the senses. It is a million times more. So it has got its own measurement separately. At one time, Swami Vivekananda raised an objection in regard to the historicity of the play of Radha and Krishna at Vrindavan and made an attempt to prove its unauthenticity. The master said in reply, very well, let us take for granted that there was never anyone called Radha and that some loving sadhaka had an imaginary conception of Radha's personality. At least this can be granted. So let there not be Radha, but somebody has at least imagined Radha in all the things that has been described about her. Some human mind has thought about it, and all the emotions that she expresses has come out from another human mind. But while picturing that character, the sadhaka, you must admit, had to lose himself completely in Radha's mood, and thus he became Radha. So a person who can imagine Radha in a particular state, he should himself imagine her in that state. That means for the time being, he himself has become a Radha. Otherwise he cannot guess how Radha would speak, how Radha would express herself, whether she would go into swoon, whether it would become completely unconscious or half unconscious. All this, is depicted. So to depict all that, it must have come into his moods. So the person himself, in a way, had become Radha. That's what the Swami Sri Ramakrishna is driving us to. It is therefore proved that the play at Vrindavan was thus enacted in the outer world also. So what happened in the spiritual world was enacted outside also. So in Vrindavan there was an outside world enactment of the drama of the Madhura Bhava, and also it is eternal act going on in the spiritual world. Both are true. Indeed, though innumerable objections regarding the Divine Lord's play of love at Vrindavan may be raised, the Madhura Bhava, first discovered by the Vaishnava teachers, led by Chaitanya and others, and manifested in their pure lives, will remain eternally true. At all times, the aspirant fit for it will attain the hallowed vision of the Divine Lord, feel blessed by looking on him as husband and himself as wife, and with the final development of that mood, be also established in the pure non-dual Brahman itself. So the authors himself might have experienced this. That's why he so authentically says, anyone today also who practices in the methodical way of the Madhura Bhava will experience the presence of Radha, Krishna, and the infinite joy they enjoy. The reason why Chaitanya induced man, the sterner sex, to practice the Mahabhava. Although for women it is easy and natural to attribute husbandship to the Divine Lord and undergo the discipline accordingly, it appears to be unnatural for those who have male bodies. The question therefore naturally arises in one's mind, why Chaitanya introduced such an unbecoming discipline in the world? It has to be said in reply that all the actions of the incarnations of the age are done for the good of humanity. That path of sadhana was introduced by Chaitanya for the same purpose. That means for the sake of doing good to the world. He made the aspirants advance on the path of Madhura Bhava, keeping in mind the spiritual ideal which the then aspirants were for a long time eager to realize. It cannot be a fact that the eternally perfect Chaitanya, an incarnation of God, engaged himself in practicing that mood for his own good and established it as a perfect ideal in society. Sri Ramakrishna said, just as the external teeth, the tusks of an elephant, are for attacking their enemies, and the internal ones for masticating food and maintaining their bodies, so two kinds of moods were manifested in Chaitanya, the one inward and the other outward. He did good to humanity with the help of the outward mood of Madhura Bhava, and being himself established in Brahman itself as the ultimate development of the love of God, enjoyed personally the immense bliss in the inward mood of non-duality. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he enjoyed both the experiences, the experience of non-dual Brahman and also experience of the divine play of Krishna and Radha in the Madhura Bhava. The spiritual condition of the country at that time. Antiquarians say that there arose in this country the teachers of Vajrayana at the end of the Buddhistic age. They preached that having attempted to realize nirvana, the final beatitude, and having almost been freed from the clutches of desires, the human mind went forward to merge in the great void with the help of meditation. But then Niratma, the goddess of non-existence, appeared before it, and instead of allowing it to do so, kept it united with her own body. Thus, though the gross body in which the aspirant enjoyed worldly objects did not then exist, she made him daily enjoy the aggregate of the essences of sensuous pleasures, inasmuch as he was even then possessed of a subtle body. Therefore, it was no wonder that the doctrine preached by them of the attainment of ultimate subtle enjoyment of the ideal world by renunciation of the enjoyment of gross objects should have become distorted in later ages. That the attainment of the constant enjoyment of the gross objects should have been made the goal of religion, and that it should have increased adultery in the country. So a lot of corruption must have come by not understanding what was meant by the spiritual practices of this Madhura Bhava. At the time of the advent of Chaitanya, the uneducated people of the country adopted the distorted Buddhistic doctrine and were divided into various secret sects. The pure Vamachara, spoken in the Tantras, became distorted even among most of their higher classes, and the quest of miraculous powers and enjoyment of sensuous pleasure by the motivated worship of meditation on the Universal Mother came into vogue. And desirous of having unlimited bliss in the spiritual world with the help of the devotional moods, the true aspirants of that age were not able to find a way. There was a sort of an obstacle in their proceeding further in this Madhura Bhava. Chaitanya at first placed before those aspirants the ideals of extraordinary renunciation and detachment by practicing them in his own life. So, renunciation and detachment. Detachment is from the mind, so that I don't want this, then renunciation is giving it up actually in the external life. So renunciation and detachment, Chaitanya showed to the society through which they can see the divine play of Radha and Krishna. Afterwards pointed out that if one became pure and holy and looked upon oneself as a woman and upon God as one's husband, one can truly realize the unlimited divine bliss in the subtle ideal world. That is Chaitanya's discovery. A new path, a man or woman thinking himself or herself as a female person having a female spiritual body and Krishna as her husband, one can realize the highest mood in that, highest experience in that Madhura Bhava mood, and also next to it the experience of non-duality, Advaita. Moreover, he preached the glory of God's names to the people in general and induced them to repeat continually his names and sing aloud his praise. So along with that, along with the spiritual practices of considering oneself as a woman, so one should also practice japa, the repetition of the names, and kirtana, singing aloud the names and glories of God. So when all these things are combined, one is sure to attain the vision of Sri Krishna and Radha. This was what Chaitanya taught. Many Buddhistic sects that had not corrupted and fallen from the ideal were thus placed by His grace on the true spiritual path again. They had forgotten about renunciation and service of the poor. So here Chaitanya told service of the spiritual people. That is the satsanga you will get. Go and serve the good people. They in turn will give you the right path to follow, to attain and reach your goal. So that they had forgotten, that he revived, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revived this serving the spiritual people and also repeating the name of God and leading a pure life. All these things he revived again. Though the groups of the followers of the distorted Vamachara at first opposed him openly, they felt the extraordinary attraction of the unique ideal of his life. He became self-denying and tried to have the vision of the Universal Mother through motiveless worship. First of all, people opposed him, thinking that he was only a hypocrite. But when they saw he is practicing what he is preaching, and he has experienced God, he has attained to the God realization. So when they saw him, they also started becoming his followers. Therefore, while recording the events of the extraordinary life of Chaitanya, some writers wrote that the Buddhists, the upholders of the doctrine of the void, Shunya, also rejoiced at the time of his birth. So people said that he had done great help to the Buddha's philosophy also. That was also, that had got distorted. So many distortions in Buddhism also could be corrected in the light of Sri Chaitanya's teaching. The main point of the Mahabhava, Madhura Bhava. Sri Krishna, the Supreme Self, the embodiment of existence, knowledge, bliss, is the only Purusha, the male principle, and all the jivas and creatures, both gross and subtle, are parts of Prakriti, the embodiment of supreme love, and are therefore his wives. So if jivas become pure and holy and wholeheartedly worship him as their husband, they attain by his grace liberation and unlimited bliss, the goal of their lives. So by assuming the role as mentioned as husband and wife between the Jiva and Paramatman, one attains to the highest realization. This is the long and short of the Madhura Bhava preached by Chaitanya. All the other devotional moods are included in the one great mood, the Mahabhava, of which the chief Gopi Radha is the embodiment. Each of the other gopis is an embodiment of one, two, or more moods comprised in the great mood. The aspirant is thus enabled to master the moods comprised within the Mahabhava by engaging himself in sadhana in imitation of the gopis of Braja, and at last become blessed through a flash of the great bliss arising from the great mood. So if one follows in the footsteps of Radha, then one attains to a vision of Krishna. The ultimate aim of an aspirant on this path is to become happy in all respects at the happiness of Krishna. By giving up all desires for his or her own happiness once and for all, through the contemplation of the mood of Radha, the embodiment of the Mahabhava. So if one goes on contemplating on Radha, whose whole life was completely dedicated to the love of Krishna, she forgot her own body, her own health, her own pleasures, comforts. She forgot her own life, her personality, and always she thought of Krishna. In a way, he had become Krishna herself. She had become Krishna himself. So, if somebody meditates on this mood of Radha, he will also become like her. That means he becomes a true lover of Krishna. And in that love, he will lose his body consciousness that he is a man. So when you forget you are a man, that is the 24 hours a man thinks about him, or a woman who thinks her body and herself as a woman. Suppose you forget it completely, then where are you? How are you existing? You are existing as a spirit which has no body. But there is eternal existence. It cannot become zero. We exist without any idea that we have a body. We have a limitation of any body. So when the body goes away, its limitations go away, we attain to the non-dual knowledge, the Advaitic knowledge. So this Madhura Bhava is one of the best means, according to Bhakti school, to attain to Advaita experience. One should have that all the devouring love of God. The love between a pair of lovers married according to the rules of secrecy, real rules of society, flows restrained by external conditions such as birth, family, virtuous conduct, fear of society, and public opinion. Such a pair live within the bounds of these rules and undergo sacrifices for each other's happiness, keeping in mind various things that should or should not be done. Desirous of properly observing the hard and fast rules of society, the married woman does not hesitate on many occasions to check or limit her relation of love with her husband. So there are limitations for human love because they have got other restrictions of society, their sense of propriety, all other considerations come. So it checks the free flow of the supreme love where one forgets oneself. A mad person. So suppose a mad person, he wants to express his love towards anyone. He does not care which place it is, whether people are, what are they saying about him. He just goes to the object of his love and just goes and embraces or does some other act of love. A madman, because he has no consciousness of himself, he does freely whatever to express his love. Whereas a person who is conscious of the society and part and parcel of society, though he has the same love towards his beloved, he cannot express. Not because his love is less, but he is aware of the restrictions of other types. So that is the condition of the ordinary housewife and a real spiritual lover, Radha. Radha, she does not care for any restriction. Whole society is talking against her. Whole husband, etc., is not liking her to go to Krishna and then sing with him, dance with him. So many people are doing so many things which would have checked her love towards Krishna, but she is unaware of all of them. So she, in her full zest of love, comes and meets Krishna under very, very difficult circumstances, under tremendous pressure of her love for him. So, but the loving behavior of a paramour is different. The householder is restricted by this, whereas the real lover is different. On account of the impulse of love, such a woman very often tramples down the bondage of those rules underfoot and does not hesitate to unite with her lover, even giving up all the rights granted her by society. So in all ideal love, we see this enacted on the drama stage, enacted on the stages of cinema. Wherever when they show a ideal love, they see the two lovers, they transcend many of the rules which ordinary householders who shudder. But that is the nature of real love, which makes you forget yourself, forget your society. So you take freedom in your hand and proceed further in your own path to fulfill your ideal love. So that's how the freedom of the lover is expressed when all the restrictions are forgotten. The restrictions of society, etc., are forgotten when you forget your own body. When you don't feel that you have a body, that you are a male person or a female person, and you are part of that society, you cannot just disregard society. So disregarding society comes later than one's forgetting one's body. How does one forget one's body? Out of the force of love. The tremendous love one has for God, as Radha had for Krishna, that made them forget their own body, forget the whole society, all its rules and restrictions, and express their love in an ideal way. The Vaishnava teachers have advised the aspirants to assume for themselves that all-devouring, loving relation towards God. So the Vaishnava Acharya says, it is not Radha or Krishna alone. That force of love is to be developed in our path. Whoever follows the path of bhakti, the force of love is there, the ideal. So we should develop that force of love. With this power of love, one can realize God. Therefore, though Radha, the Supreme Lady of Vrindavan, is the married wife of Ayan Ghosh, she has been described as one who renounced her all for the love of Krishna. So, the Radha is considered to be as the ideal lover. So, following her footsteps, anyone who wants to realize Krishna, and after realizing Krishna, realize the Advaitic truth that one is, everything is Brahman. The ideal, the path that is to be followed is the path shown by Radharani. The Vaishnava teachers have described the Madhura Bhava as the aggregate of the essences of the other four moods, that is Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, all these four moods, and something more. For the loving woman serves her lover like a slave, gives good counsel under all circumstances like a friend, feeling happy at his happiness and miserable at his afflictions, and engages herself like a mother in nourishing his body and mind and thinking of his welfare in all respects. So, all moods are included in this lover's mood, in that Mudra Bhava. So, she acts like a mother in saving his body and mind, nursing his body and mind. So, and she just counsels him like a friend, and then she always contemplates on his goodness for his auspicious living, later like a friend. All these moods are included in a real lover, thus wholly effacing her own personality. She occupies herself in entertaining her lover's mind and in bringing all kinds of comforts to him, and thus keeping him flooded with extraordinary peace and bliss. So the mood of a real lover is described here. In the life of Radha we see it. So we see it in the other great heroines of our Puranas also. When Sita was asked not to come to forest by Ramchandra, Ramchandra was about to go for forest. But Sita says, I will also accompany you. Then he says, no, you have never lived in forest. You have never know the difficulties of forest. There will be lot of thorns, stones. There will be no path to walk about. So your body is so sensitive for all these things. You will not be able to bear all these difficulties. Then Sita says, I shall come to, I will come with you. I will not stop and remain here. I will go in before you in all the difficult paths. And if there are thorns, I will step up on the ground first, so that the thorns will be subdued. When you come, it will not prick you. See the sacrifice. She is already imagining for herself, but volunteering to undergo that. That is the real love. The woman who forgets herself under the influence of love and keeps a perfect eye on the welfare and happiness of her lover is called in the devotional books the Samartha, the excellent, and her love is the best. All other kinds of love, untarnished with a tinge of selfishness, have been assigned to two other classes, namely Samanjasa, the balanced one, and Sadharani, the common. The woman of the former class minds her own happiness to the same extent as her lovers. So I will also be happy, let him also be happy. But if he says that no, you suffer and I will be happy, so that second, this Samanjasa lover will not agree. Let both of us be happy. So that is it brings you to the second class of lover. And then the third one is to the same extent as the lovers, and she of the latter class regards her lover as dear for the sake of her own happiness. And the third variety is the lowest one. For her own happiness, she wants her husband to oblige. Whatever she wants, he should oblige. If he does not oblige, her love is off. So this is the commonest. Then little higher than that one is, let both of us be happy. We should not do anything that is not detrimental to me. I will also not do anything. So that's sort of balanced. That is the second, Samanjasa. And Sadharana is the lowest, and Samanjasa is this second. Next higher, highest is this Samartha. That is the real Madhurabhava shown by Radharani. So we shall continue this topic in our next reading class. Niranjanam nityamanantarupam bhaktanukampadhrita vigraham vai Ishavataram parameshamidhyam tam Ramakrishnam shirasa namama. O Ramakrishna, the taintless one, the eternal one, the one with infinite forms, the one who has assumed form for the sake of his devotees, the incarnate Supreme Lord, Supreme Soul, and the adorable Lord of all, we salute, bowing our heads to thee. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.